someone to give about me. I'm looking, I'm searching, finding. I'm looking, I'm searching, finding. I'm looking for someone to give about me. I'm looking, I'm searching, finding. I'm looking, I'm searching, finding. I'm looking for someone to give about you. It's from the love that's in me. I love the love. I am so grateful for the enemy, but yet they still attack me with the envy.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to Chicago Community Activism Podcast. I am your host, Sista Afrika. I'm delighted to be here. Shout out to nephew Ron Rilla on the boards, engineer this morning. Our sponsors, Diverse City, Trek, that's TRECC, the Hip Hop Heritage Museum, Really Honest, Africa Cares, Illinois. He said, do that again. And this show is dedicated to those of us that are actively engaged and involved in the community. We do this show on Saturdays intentionally for the purpose and intent of you to learn about what's happening in the community, in your community, in our community, so that you can support what's happening, go out and engage, volunteer, donate, be a part of. Oftentimes people reach out and they want to know, how can I get involved? What's going on or what's going on? So we want to make it easy. Saturday is a day where a lot of people come together and do community activities and engagements and events. A little bit of history. For me, I'm just grateful. Brian Gorman is a visionary who came up with this idea. I take no credit. And it's so good to have people in your life, you know, that are visionaries, that see things and activate, you know, and Brian has been doing this a long time. For those who don't know, please Google Brian Gorman, the Brian Gorman. Let me put a D on that. And he put the show together, you know, and asked me to be the host. And I'm just so eternally grateful. Thank you. Shout out Brian Gorman. And my parents, again, I take no credit, were very, very big on community. You know, the word unity is in community. So before I knew anything about myself, I knew about community, you know, and I have to give that thanks and honor and tribute, homage to my parents, the late, great Reverend Dr. Kwame John Porter, ancestor. He was a minister and educator, a pastor, professor, author, the first SCLC, Southern Christian Leadership Conference, director for Chicago for Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. As we come up on Dr. King's birthday, you know, you'll see a lot of people celebrating Dr. King and talking about the dream. You know, I spoke last year about the nightmare of which a lot of us live today. When Dr. King was alive, oftentimes when he would travel, he wasn't very welcomed. He wasn't very popular. He wasn't very loved, you know, but we love him today. So I think another premise for this show is to love us while we're here. Love those that are doing the work, those that are committed, those that are sacrificing, that are giving up of their time, their energy, their understanding, and themselves. You know, share your good news. You know, please jump on and we want to engage with you. Tap into the live. It is a live show. And even after the show, we want to know what you're doing in your community. We want to know how we can support you and what you're doing in your community. So whatever you're doing, please let us know. And if you want to be a guest, please tap in with us. We'd love to have you as well. Without further ado, I would like to get into our guest today. Our guest, before we want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for reaching out. Thank you for wanting to do the work that you do and wanted to come and share on this platform here at the Chicago Community Activism Podcast. Our guest is no stranger to the community. When you see our guest, when you hear him speak, you already understand he's about the community. From workshops and seminars, we've done some work together. We partnered on some things together.
Are you talking about me?
But yes, for some time. Won't you all welcome Dr. Obari Cartman?
What's going on, everybody?
He's so laid back.
I
don't care.
Look at the screen or look at you.
You look right there. Thank you for asking. Great questions. He already come with the dope questions. You know what I'm saying? He's so humble, so laid back. This is him all the time. But he is a very, very, very big person when it comes to community. Please let us know who you are and how it relates to community.
Well, thanks for having me. Appreciate the invitation. I appreciate you starting with your parents. I think that's my origin story too. My father, Dr. Tibidi Cartman, is the original Dr. Cartman in my life, and we lost him about 20 years ago almost.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same story as yours. Like I knew before I knew anything about myself, I knew that part of our responsibility of being alive meant to be engaged and committed to serving the community.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that I do now is an extension of the things that my father curated for me in my life. The
Mm-hmm.
African drums and the cultural wellness and
Mm-hmm.
the political stuff, everything. It was because my dad put me in the car and took me where he was going. And now I'm still going to those places, Carruthers
Mm-hmm.
Center, and still hanging out with people that were friends of his. I got a call yesterday. Said, "I need your daddy. I need you to some UIC." Like
I love it.
I'm still in his orbit in a way that I can't take credit for. And I used to when I was maybe in college. You're young, you think you're special. The things I was into, the things
You
I
say
was
you
like.
think you're special.
When I started to really evaluate my
Yes,
life,
yes,
myself, and the things I was
yes.
interested in, the music I liked, I
Mm-hmm.
could attribute it to one or both of my parents.
Come on.
And so then you realize you're just a product of your environment, like everybody else is.
That's right.
And
That's
my
right.
environment, which happened to be culturally enriching, I went to New Concept Development Center, Baba Haki School, was Children's Dance Theater, and kind of grew up in this village of Black folk who were trying to find themselves, trying to recreate on this land what it means to be a part of the original people, celebrating Kwanzaa. Like that was always my life.
Period.
So what I do now is just that. I'm just continuing the cycle of what I inherited. And grateful to have the family and community that made me.
I appreciate that. You went into my first 3 questions.
There we go. It's good to see you all.
Man, I love it, love it, love it. And again, thank you for being here.
No,
You talked about getting in the car and just going places with your parents, with your family. You took me to, my father took me to see the Whalers. And I was just listening to you talking how it resonates with me and community. I remember meeting Sister Rita Marley, and just it changed my life.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, like you said, also we don't know at the time what's happening because we just in the flow.
Yeah.
We're doing what our parents tell us. We're in the car with them. We're going places with them,
Yeah.
and we're there even as children. But I remember when I first decided to lock my hair, it wasn't as popular.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So about 30 years ago.
Right.
And, I was kind of looked at like, what is she doing? Is she okay? And I remember people, calling and asking questions. What's going on? But it's like those spaces that we were brought to as children. Talk about some of those spaces in terms of your development educationally, because you've been in a lot of educational spaces too.
Yeah. I mean, the anchoring was definitely EPE, Institute of Positive Education. I still have those memories. I'm still in community with those people. I was just at Malcolm X last couple days ago, and on the same day, my sons are with me, right? Because that's what my father taught me to do. Bring your boys. My sons were with me, and I had to introduce them to my friend Macy, who was in town from DC.
I love Mama Macy.
I was like, we was in preschool together.
That's right. That's right.
A couple of weeks before that, I did a presentation at a pre-Kwanzaa on Drexel with International House, and Mama Carolyn was in the audience. I had to tell my son like that was my teacher, right? Then
I love
went
it.
to Whole Foods right after the Malcolm X the other day and saw Keely, Baba Haki's son. I was like, this is my
my childhood friend, like my first comrade.
And so that upbringing, being in New Concept Development Center, gave me a sense of like anchoring, purpose, and place. So when I left, and we eventually moved out to the suburbs, went to schools. I was only white, black guy around, and had that experience too. And then all the way through school, just going to Hampton, HBCU.
Come on, Hampton.
Went to Georgia State for a master's, PhD.
State?
But it wasn't. If it wasn't for my first beginning of school being connected to my people, right? So we had our own pledge. We had pledging allegiance to African flags, singing, you know what I'm saying? We love Black people, and talking about Kwanzaa and playing drums. So I always thought about education being know thyself. That was always my connection. So when I went to other places and people were telling me different histories, I was like, oh, no, that's wrong. I had a clarity about like, no, that's not what we do. So I could play a game still. I'm like, all right, give you this if that's what I need to get through.
Right. But you already knew.
So when I came into psychology, I always understood that there was a version of psychology that they was going to teach me that they kind of had to as a part of the institution. And I had to go outside of my coursework to find the truth. So I had to find the Black psychologist, I had to find the African psychologist. So whatever discipline we in, there's those of us that have our own theories, our own philosophies, our own worldview. So because education was always planted in me that your people first.
That's right.
I carry that with me through. So education has been critical for me. I think we're in a really serious moment of needing to go back and study and learn the history. I think that I talk to a lot of young people that have very little understanding of what happened, where we came from, who we belong to. I still like there's a lot of shame in being Black because we're tired of watching the slave movies because those slave movies are depicted from a version of a story where we losing.
Right.
So we tired of seeing our ass kicked.
We get to see us winning. That's right. That's right.
We've been winning for so much longer. And when young people hear that story, they get to walk with a different. And so I got to walk with that. Right. I got to walk with that. I didn't have to sing no Pledge of Allegiance to America. When I went to school, I sang a pledge of allegiance to my people,
right?
And that that carried me to levels of excellence in education that I don't think would have happened if I didn't have a strong foundation. So I'm a big proponent of like parents that have young people. Like the most power we really have is in guiding and shaping their minds. Whether you put them in school, and I have my boys were in the same school. It's Betty Shabazz now. It's a charter school until they started there. But eventually took them out and they're in public schools and they ended up going to Disney, my oldest boy. And we had that
I remember
clash.
that.
We had the clash. I had my son came home telling me one of his teachers had him do the Pledge of Allegiance. And he was afraid of getting in trouble if he didn't do it.
Right.
And so he came home, told me the story, and I was like, boy, like if you ever again put your hand on your heart, pledge allegiance to the United States of America, then you're gonna be in trouble with me.
Right.
Mama on speaker, right? We teamed up on that. He got to go back to school empowered and
proud. That's right. My parents said, right.
I ain't doing that no more. So he came home with Christopher Columbus coloring sheets and all that. So we had to, you got to deal with being in America.
That's right.
But
it's a good teaching moment too, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? To unlearn what's been told, but to also teach that this is what they're telling most of the people in the world.
That's right.
This is the standard of education.
That's right.
But here's what we teach as parents in this house. I love it. You talked a lot about education. You've traveled a lot, and a lot of times you're hired to speak. When you're speaking, again, like what is it that you're seeing that's resonating with us when you think about? You talked about slave movies, like leading, how you see a sense of our children not walking so much with their heads up and proud. You know what I'm saying? No pun intended, but we've done a lot of work around hip hop and the challenges that we see in hip hop. So when you have like a Sexy Red, who's deemed to be a billionaire very soon, not so much for her music, of which that is a part of it, but more so for the lipstick line, of which, the names of those, brands are, Booty Hole Brown, Menstrual Cycle Red. So how do you as a psychologist and a leader in this mental health space, deal with that as you're traveling and you're speaking around the country?
I'll go back to the same point around understanding history. When you just said Menstrual Cycle Red, it took me a second to understand. I had to redo the word from menstrual, like blood.
Right.
I first heard menstrual, like minstrel show. And so because we're not understanding the minstrel show history, our young people don't see what does it mean for our art to be commodified, to churn through a machine, to be weaponized against us. And so part of it is we just got to teach them that. We just got to teach them the industries. There's artists and there's music and it sounds good and it feels good, but there's always a back room. There's always somebody, a hidden hand. And it's the same hidden hand that's been sort of terrorizing us for centuries. So it can't be, it's not a new story. It's just a story we don't tell well. And so for me, that's what when I'm speaking around hip hop, I start with, who you like, who they belong to. And let's look at them. Let's look at, the
who do you like and who do they belong to?
The CEOs.
Who's paying them? Who's promoting them?
And then we get to have a conversation about what is being promoted through the artistry. And if those things that have been promoted are hurting us or helping us. And it's, you just ask simple, questions and young people will tell you the truth.
They will. They will.
It's the thing that's hard about it is, and I don't judge them for it because it's the same thing that's hard for us adults about like I'll say food is a good example.
Okay.
It's hard to wrestle soul food out of Black people. And you can give them facts. You can tell them this is where it comes from. I can tell them the same thing. GMO and you know, white corporations, and it's killing you.
Or that they were giving us the worst of the worst, and now we have a love and affinity for it.
And so I think the same thing is true for hip hop. I think that because we as Black folk are masters at art, we can turn garbage into something that's delicious, and then we get to develop a taste for it. And so I could put the science out, and I can tell you about the salt and the sugar and the cholesterol but it's still delicious, and it's still hard to detach yourself from those cravings. So I see young people craving Sexy Red in the same way that we crave chicken, in the same way that so there's a process of not just giving information around history and the weaponization of all the things, and then us developing practices as communities to fast, to develop discipline, to
meditation, breathing,
all those kind of things are part of it too. So we got to get our young people holistically well, and that includes every level of, you know what I'm saying, like at the school is if you go to school and you been brainwashed, and then you got to eat, and then you putting poison in, and you putting earphones in, like every level of
it's feeding you what's not.
We under attack. So we up against a lot. But
you said a lot, and you got me to another point of things that were not intentionally for us, but we've gravitated to and we've learned to love. The N-word. How do you feel about that? Because that's one of those things that is controversial. I remember some years ago we buried the word, but then there are those who say, well, it comes out of Niger. That's Africa. We should embrace it. You know, where are you at with that in terms of something that was given to us, but we have turned it around to have an affinity for it?
That's tricky. I don't feel as strongly about the N-word as Quabana. You know what I mean? Like,
shout out to Quabana and Gary. We love you, bro.
If I hear young people saying, man, niggas is smart as fuck, you know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna lean on the smart as fuck part. Like,
right. Like, niggas is winning. Right, hey, winning, man.
I'm not gonna be like, hey yo, young blood. Like, you know right. The N-word ain't good for us.
So you're not gonna say, could you change it and say, brother, it's smart as okay. You're like, nah.
Over time, if I want to change that language, I might model it.
Okay.
I might call him a king. I might call him a warrior.
Okay.
You're
a king, bro.
Use it. But yeah, I ain't gonna have a debate about it.
Yeah.
I like the conversation is important, because if we got young people around elders that are sensitive to it, I think they should know why.
Absolutely.
But I think that I do believe in the power of transforming things. I do think that we have an alchemy in us. And to nitpick on any specific word, some people in the conscious community get caught up in the word kid.
Baby goats.
Baby goats. So some of that is nitpicky to me.
They said kid.
The truth is, all of the words are compromised.
Yeah.
As long as we speak in English, it's a scar. Like, my name is Cartman. You call me Dr. Cartman with reverence. I'm embarrassed by that. You know what I'm saying? I ain't got far enough to detach my actual name that I gave to my children. That was a scar of a legacy of enslavement from my ancestors. Cartman ain't no badge of honor. I should be embarrassed about that. So every word we've talked, every word we've used since then.
Good point. Yeah.
Right. Every word I'm saying right now. Is an imposition on my tongue.
The English that we have been taught. Correct.
That was violently imposed on my ancestors. And so if we're gonna get nitpicky, just throw the whole shit away. You know what I'm saying?
Throw it all away.
But we
have just all talking Swahili from here on out. Swahili. Yebo?
That's Yebo, right? But we have transformed this language.
That's right.
And to use it as a liberation tool. We talk about hip hop. We've turned it into a tool of communication across the world. And I believe that we have that power. And I believe in that. So if we can do that with all the words, I think we can do that with the N-word.
I love it. Who are some of the people in the community that you have yet to work with, but you look forward to collaborating with? This could be worldwide, anybody.
Oh, the community in the world.
The larger community. Chicago, everywhere.
There's a lot of people doing international work that I have not connected with. The truth is, like, when I think about that question, there were a lot of people that I would have wanted to connect with, but like, I'm one of those guys, I'll reach out.
Yeah, you do.
Right?
You do.
And so my list is short, because anybody I could think of, I would have called them. You know what I mean? I would have found a way to get to them. And so it's really actually no one that comes to mind. There's people that were on my list for sure.
Okay.
But I found them. And right now we got so many ways to connect to people, right? So just,
So do.
I don't think there's no excuse to not be connected.
That's
so
right. That's right.
I'm DM, right? I'm a email. I'm gonna find their website. I'm gonna call them if I get a number. You know what I'm saying? If somebody I was on yesterday was on a Zoom from the UK. Some people were doing some decolonizing. There was a guy talking about African-centered malehood from in the UK. It was a whole different. He took different language. I mean, different accent, but he was saying the exact same thing that I would say in a seminar here in the States. I called him, right? I found his website. I called him. We talked. Right?
I love it.
So
I love it. In
anytime
real
that
time,
happens, I find him. I log on to the Zooms. I'll go to their programs. I'll show up in the room. I'll wait after the lecture's over, and I'll sit in line. I'll talk to them.
I love it.
I've always been that kind of guy. So there's not really nobody that comes to mind that I have not reached out to.
That you wanted to connect with. No. Speaking of reaching out to and collaborating, last summer, shout out to Ose and his Queen Anita with Village Leadership Academy right here in Chicago. They do amazing work. They have their annual event. And they were looking to get the Queen, India Arie. She went live and did a post talking about her mental health. What would you say to that in terms of the work that you do? I applauded her, for being transparent and for communicating what was happening with her and why she was not able to, be here. But that happens a lot. And a lot of times people deem celebrities, no shows but mental health is a real situation for all of us. You know what I'm saying? Trauma is real for all of us.
I'm mixed on that too. You're asking good questions. I remember reading that post last year. And part of my position was selfish because I wanted to see her.
Okay.
Right?
We do love you, Queen. We love you, Queen.
And I did have questions though. I mean, I didn't have a judgment about it, but I know. And you called me this morning talking about you still doing the show, right? And you said you was tired.
Yeah.
And I know what it's like to have to be disappointed.
Yeah.
To be
that's real.
To be hurt. To be afraid.
Yeah.
All the things. And if you mission driven and if you make commitments, then I believe in seeing them through.
Okay.
I do think that there are extreme circumstances for sure. And I don't know what happened in there.
Right.
I don't know. But I think that, part of what it means to be activists in this world includes particularly Black people. We all been traumatized. We all carrying stuff. We got burdens. And so I think we need to learn how to deal with those things and find spaces to recover and restore. But if you make a commitment, it's if I say I'm gonna be there and I'm having a bad day, I'm gonna be there anyway. Like it's got to be something real.
You're still gonna show up through whatever's happening.
And the question that I had about that was, when you do something, this is my life. Like, and I don't know if it's hers, but my life is, I don't experience a lot of my work as like struggle. Like I love everything I do. I look forward to being, in prisons talking to boys. I look forward to doing drum circles. Whether it's using photography or using what I'm speaking or whatever it is. I might be tired, like Saturday morning. I don't like,
but you're getting up because you want to do it.
I get invigorated by the work. So my first question was, I wondered if India Arie does not have the same connection to her art, if it doesn't feel fulfilling in doing it and sharing it. Because if you down and you doing something you love, then that should lift you up. Like that should be the thing that you go to for your medicine. And so if you're doing something that's misaligned, then it will feel like
absolutely. Like it'll feel like I got to show up, right?
So hopefully people, are doing things that are mission driven, but also connecting to that thing that makes you feel more alive.
That gives them that motivation to want to do it.
And doing it in spaces that's not like pulling for. I know artists. You find stuff on stage and then people just draining you. But that particular event was, was a community event. It was a bunch of kids.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely,
all that stuff is happening too. So those are questions I had, but again, no judgment. But I do think it's a complicated question about to what extent do we move forward? Do we push through? Do we hold our commitments?
Yeah.
Or I don't want to say use mental health as an excuse. Because I know people would be struggling for real.
It's a real struggle for people. Yeah. It's interesting listening to you again. Like, I remember 2 summers ago, I was at Bonnie Sante. We were talking about Bonnie Sante over here. And I was on my lunch break, in between meetings. And someone drove down 53rd Street spraying the block, meaning shooting. Okay. And so I was coming out with my smoothie. J. Mal Cole, my hood, my block, my city. Shout out J. Cole. He was coming out as well. And someone ran towards us like, they're shooting. So we ran back in. Of course, at this point, we didn't know what was happening. So we just literally walking out, just kind of relaxed. And so the shakes go everywhere. We fall. A lady, fell on my leg. Like, listen, I got myself together and I went right back to work. When I got to the meeting, the sister I was meeting with was like, did I just see you? I mean, what was going on over there? I was like, somebody was shooting. But yeah, we got work to do. So I didn't even have enough time to process what had happened, but I didn't even realize that until she said something. So when you were talking, I'm thinking like, that trauma is real. But, like for me, I didn't take the time to, woe is me, or let me go to the hospital. Let me make sure I'm okay. Maybe I should have. You know what I'm saying? But, I think later on that night, I think I slept maybe 2 days afterwards because my body needed to process it. In the moment, I needed to get to that meeting. But I think that when it comes to this type of work and your offerings in this space, what drove you to knowing that you wanted to be a doctor of psychology?
Your story, I think that's an extreme case. If you almost got shot, then I think you should go take a nap. Right. So I did
afterwards, like way after. Like
I think that everybody would have understood if you missed that meeting. You know what I mean? And so that's the other end of it. I do think that we have sort of a just keep going, like a push it that's detrimental. And I also think that we have a generation of people who are using it as an excuse to be soft. So I think there's a balance in between this moment that we're in that doesn't mean just discard what your body needs, but it also means, hold your commitments. But that if you almost got shot, you should have went home. Right. I came into this, I've always been into people. I've always been interested in how people work and what people do and why they do it. I was in junior high, probably 7th grade, doing peer mediation clubs. Right.
In 7th grade.
7th grade, I was on the peer mediation team. As a kid. So
you had a peer mediation team at your school.
Peer mediation team.
Shout out to the school.
I was always interested in why people do what they do, resolving conflicts. And I was in high school doing this bunch of different clubs. This thing we call Snowball. We went and did retreats and we did skits and had conversations about drugs and sex and all that. And did this club called Fusion. We talked about race and culture. I've always been interested in problem solving and understanding people.
I love it. I
was a guy that my friends would always call, and I could listen and try to figure it out and be fair and non-judgmental. I've always been that. And so psychology, I took a class in psychology. It's my senior year. High school. I was like, this is what I want to do.
So you were supposed to do exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, I've been doing this.
How can people find you?
You can Google me. It's probably the easiest way.
Google me.
Get my name right. But the website comes up, Instagram, Facebook. That's probably the easiest way to get to me.
And then your regular mail piece that you do. Can you give that information?
We do have a weekly Sunday class, comedic yoga. Michael Wilson teaches it. It's at Studio Yogi. It's about 2 blocks west of Jeffrey. We're there every Sunday at 3:00. So
how much is that?
Free
$99.
Blue Door Neighborhood Center sponsors it. So
the Blue Door sponsors it. Yep. I love it. I love it. And you do a lot with the Blue Door.
Yeah.
Talk about that quickly.
Blue Door Neighborhood Center. There's a community center based out of Blue Cross Blue Shield. Free community space. Pullman and Morgan Park is where I do my work out of. And we just, they let us do collaborative, creative arts kind of stuff. We've been doing drums, capoeira, and all type of
healthy food options, foodish,
we do
hip hop, mental health, all kind of wonderful. I appreciate you and thank you. You've been at this a long time. You said 7th grade. Wow. Yeah. I thought I knew you for real. You know what I'm saying? I learned a lot today.
Don't be here for much longer.
You remember this? I did some African things today.
I
will do some African things tomorrow. Right. That was one of the mantras we had growing up. Right, you know what I'm saying, in the Black spaces. So, man, thank you again, Ron Rilla. We appreciate you on the boards today. Brian Gorman, Diverse City, Brownsville Podcast Studios, Chicago Hip Hop Heritage Museum, Trek, that's TRECC. Again, Ron Rilla, Rilla Noise. And our previous guests, we thank all of you all for being a part and partnering with us. If you want to be a guest, please tap in with us. We love to have you. Live with Sista Afrika, Chicago Community Activism Podcast.
the love that's in me. I love the love. I am so grateful for the enemy, but yet they still attack me with the envy. They're trying to clog my drain, leave me empty. They say I'm honored every week. I say,